Well, okay, this video is being live streamed. Welcome aboard, folks. Hope you can see me now. I'm Lee Farnell Best Business, because we're in the business of helping people be their very best. But this is a seminar I do on a regular basis, a free seminar, so that you can get access to some of the knowledge that I've picked up over the years to help people actually be their very best. Now, I'm just checking how this is going because I've got no idea, because we normally do live on Facebook, but I thought today we'd go live on Zoom, live on YouTube. So maybe we'll get going and I'll share the screen. I wonder if you guys can see the screen. I'll go to the screen sharing so that way you guys can see the slides that I've put together for you. And I don't want it to be death by PowerPoint, but we are going to go through some slides that will help us set the scene. And here it is, biofacilitation. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that very shortly. But what made me start this whole process was the fact that so many people, and I'm one of them, spent, in my case, 4 years at Melbourne University, then another 4 years here at University of Western Australia doing the master's degree. I wanted the world to be fit and healthy. So I started with a human performance degree at Melbourne University, then a master's degree here in Perth, but not once, not 1 minute in any of those 8 years did they ever talk about how do you take all this stuff we're teaching you at uni and how do you actually make money out of it? How do you actually have a conversation with a prospect to actually generate revenue? You see, they said, if you hang out your shingle, all you need to do is get that degree, get that piece of paper, and people will beat a path to your door. And we see this time and time again, whether it be engineers, doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, physiotherapists. Just get the piece of paper, mate, and it'll all be okay. So I'm going to tell you right up front, what a load of bullshit. Now, just last week, I had a meeting with a guy who is organizing and running a company, a scientific company that rose out of one of the universities here in Perth. And again, he's got a whole team of people there, highly qualified, highly intelligent people. But he said, these guys actually think that if you do death by PowerPoint to an audience, they'll buy from you, because that's what they saw at university, someone just death by PowerPointing and going, well, that must be what teaching, that must be what communication, that must be what persuasion and influence is. And of course, it's complete and utter bullshit. So my goal is to give you some tips this morning, sales, influence, and persuasion like a champion, particularly for people who've been to university, because you've been in the sheep dip, you've drunk the Kool-Aid that says, you get the degree, get the master's degree, get the PhD. And of course, the problem with that is the more qualified you are and the more time you spend in that ecosystem, and there's a lot of good things that come out of those ecosystems, of course, research and changing the world and educating people and so on. But capacity to communicate, sell, influence, and persuade and generate revenue from your knowledge is not one of the things that comes out of university. So let's touch on this morning, just in this short session I'm going to do with you, to help you storm up your career ladder, or storm up your business ladder, or storm up the income ladder. Because what the data shows is that when you bother with sales and influence and persuasion, it's the one critical factor that determines how well you lead, manage, grow a business, start a business, or even grow your career. Because when you can sell, influence, and persuade, and I'm not talking about necessarily selling so that you are selling a customer, it may just be selling an idea, or getting a project up, or starting an initiative within the company that's going to make a great difference. It makes all the difference, because you see, some of you have heard of Professor Charles Hand in London Business School, who talked about the sigmoid curve in terms of all organisations and even careers are somewhere on that blue line. Footy teams, sporting teams are somewhere on that blue line. And if you're going to actually kick on to the next level, you actually have to come up with an idea when you're already doing well. So here, in terms of your career, even if you're on the way up now, what's the next step? What's the next step in your career? What's the next step in your business? And I can tell you, one of the key factors that will make the difference is your ability to sell, influence, and persuade. So take on board some of these things I'm talking about this morning and implement them and watch the world change around you. Forget what step you're at, because it's whether I won't do it, I can't do it, I want to do it. How do I do it? I'll try to do it. I can do it. I will. Let's do it. Let's do it in terms of particularly improving sales, influence, persuasion. You see, there's what you know about sales and influence and persuasion, and there's things, there's things I don't know. It might be I don't know how to handle it, objections, or I'm not that comfortable when someone asks me a question. But the fact is, there's a whole lot you don't even know that you don't even know. And when you begin to be immersed in that area, you make massive breakthroughs. And that's certainly what we do in Lee Farnell Best Business, is shining a light into those areas you don't even know about when it comes to sales, influence, and persuasion. And you'll see from my website, leefarnell.com, we're not in the business of being hardcore, pushy salespeople. In fact, you're in the business, and you saw the term already, buyer facilitation, facilitating the buyer to make their own decision, a decision that is good for them, so that they buy from you as distinct from you selling to them. But at the same time, you need to understand there is a process. There is a process of buyer facilitation. And if you step outside that process, you start to undermine your ability to actually generate revenue. So one of the things you've got to do is, first of all, develop a mindset, a thinking process that says, I'm in the business of selling ideas, or I'm in the business of getting people involved in projects, or I'm in the business of getting people to at least be aware of my business or my ideas. And that means a mindset, getting your mind in the right gear, because my mind used to be, I don't need to sell. I go to university. I don't need to sell. I'm a professional. Only people who haven't been to university need to sell. Can you believe that belief, that mindset? Only people who haven't been to university need to sell. If you've been to university, you're a very smart person, and people will just automatically know that you're smart. And they'll, well, as people say, the work speaks for itself. The work whispers for itself. What is that? You want to blow your own trumpet. You've got to find a way of, without being obnoxious. And of course, there are people around who we've met, and I know some of those people that their whole conversation is all about themselves. Yet, if you're actually going to be very good at sales, influence, and persuasion, you need to understand what we call second position. First position is when you're only talking about yourself and coming from your point of view. Second position is when you put yourself in the other person's shoes and you get the other person talking. Now, that's a whole set of skills in itself. Is how do I actively get people sharing information with me and talking so that they begin to sell themselves? And that starts to be an area what we call strategic questioning. Strategic questioning. How do I strategically ask the right questions at the right time in a very comfortable conversational way that elicits the buyer to begin to sell themselves? It's a process we call the Pomvik process, but again, I'll come back to that at some point. But that's a mindset. That's a way of thinking, a sales mindset. And certainly we do a lot of work with consultants and people selling business to business. And that's important. Now, when I work with these scientists in a few weeks' time, we're going to have to start with in many ways, we've got to start with their existing mindset, which might be, I'm not a salesperson, I can't sell, I've spent 8 years at university studying science. I'm not going to spend time studying to sell. Someone else can do that for me. But what we know is, if everyone in the organization, from the receptionist through to scientists, through to the finance people, if everyone understands what we call the R factor, the relationship factor, R factor equals frequency times quality of contact, where quality of contact is friendliness times value. If everyone understands what that actually means in the company, well, what does frequent contact look like? And particularly, what does quality contact look like? If everyone understands that, we start to increase the quality of the conversations that are had right across the company, and you start to identify opportunities. We call it the seagull approach, so that everybody can identify opportunities, not just your salespeople, business development, rainmaker people. There's a whole system that we work with there. And there's some of the things when we're talking about sales, influence, and persuasion like a champion, particularly for people who've been to university, who've been dipped in the sheep dip for 4 or 6 or 8 years. That is not even on the radar. That is not on the mental landscape. But when you can bring it to the mental landscape of an organization where everyone's involved in R factor, frequent quality contact, where they also understand it's about a long-term relationship with customers. We want a 20-year relationship with you. We want your sons and daughters doing business with us as well, not just transactional, not just one-night stands. We want lifetime relationships. So when it comes to thinking, there are over 60,000 thoughts a day that are in your brain. The question then is, how many of those thoughts are actually helping you generate business? So we also ask the question, what is your system for training your brain to think the thoughts that help you sell more? Well, in the first instance, what's your system for training your brain to actually think the thoughts to actually help you sell, let alone sell more? So there's a mental process that we work through. Before we even get to what to do, let's talk about the thinking process behind it. Because if you talk about what to do without the thinking process, then your thinking undermines. It's like, let's play golf. Let's talk about how to do the backswing and how to do the stroke. Now, let's actually talk about how you think about the game, how you think about your body before you actually talk about the physical aspects of the stroke. So I'm touching on some of these things today. Now, look, even Harvard Business Review says more universities need to teach sales. Well, how about that? Inc. magazine says this is the #1 skill. Without this skill, you won't succeed. That is, you need to be teaching everybody how to actually, at minimum, have quality conversations, quality needs discovery conversations. Research shows that the vast majority of people still think salespeople don't really understand their needs. So the #1 trick, the #1 strategy is truly understanding people's needs. And then how do you ask questions to do that? And what's your active listening process to prove that you've actually heard them? He's one of the greatest salespeople of all time, of course, Steve Jobs. And still Apple have people lined up around the block when they're releasing a new product. And still Apple have some of the highest margins in the industry. Well, how does that work? Because they've created incredible value and incredible stories around their products. Warren Buffett, multi-billionaire, said in graduate school, you learn all this complicated stuff, but what's really essential is being able to get others to follow your ideas. So it's not just about selling products and services. It's about people buying your ideas as a leader to move companies and teams and projects forward. If you're a salesperson, you want people to follow your advice. If you're a management leader, you want them to follow you in business. Whatever you do, good communication skills are incredibly important and something that almost anybody can improve upon, be it in writing and speaking. So we work with people to do just this, communication in writing and speaking, particularly to help sell business to business, generate business to business, and certainly also high ticket items. Like, for example, one of my clients, Laurie, was very good at winning $500,000 superannuation deals, and sometimes way bigger than 500,000. As he said, if someone has $500,000 in one account and trusting one financial planner, and then you're asking them to come across to you, needless to say, you've got to build quite a degree of trust. And therefore, there is a process that he uses and which makes him in the top 1% of the top 1% of financial planners, and still play great games of golf a good couple of times a week. How does he do that? Well, he's developed these skills. Warren Buffett said it's the most important degree he's earned, and that's the degree that he got from Dale Carnegie around how to win friends and influence people. There it is there. Dale Carnegie course, Effective Speaking, Leadership Training, and the Art of Winning Friends and Influencing People. It's the only diploma Warren Buffett has on his wall. Why? Because he says effective speaking, leadership training, and the art of winning friends and influencing people is central to his success as a business person and a multi-billionaire. He literally says he used to be physically sick at the thought of having to speak in public, because now he's done it time and time again. And there's so many great documentaries. So even if you take part of what he's telling you there, it can make a massive difference to your life and your career. 3 big skills. 1, sales. I've been in the ocean this morning and now salty nose. Excuse me. Sorry about this. No edit, all live. Sorry about that. That's a good thing about swimming in the ocean in the morning. Three big skills you really need to be learning yourself and then sharing and teaching others. Sales, the sales process. Influence, which is you may or may not be selling something, but at least influence. And as NLP says, you cannot not influence someone. I'm influencing you. You're having all sorts of images, like me, dislike me, and I can deal with this guy, I can't deal with this guy. All sorts of buttons are being pushed in you that I have absolutely no control over. Some control, some influence, at least influence, not control. And to persuade, that is to move into action, to get people moving into action. And of course, the other skill, the bonus skill that you really should be sharing and teaching is negotiation. Now, again, I'm not going to be covering all of that this morning, but I'll touch on some of them. And you want to follow up, go to my website, leefarnell.com, book a 15-minute chat, see if we can be of any value to you, but at least you've got nothing to lose there. And certainly, I've spent 40 years now, 40 years, I'm getting old, 40 years working in organizations, helping them change, grow, innovate, and certainly the last 20 years, helping organizations in the area of sales and leadership, sales, persuasion, leadership. And some of the results are just incredible. Not because I'm so great, but the people are great. When I put these tools into their hands, they're like flowers, they blossom. The numbers are just incredible, literally millions and millions of dollars. To the point now, you'll see on my website where we say, listen, one of the things we're going to do here is go, do you want to make an extra $1 million or an extra 46% this year? Let's make a decision, particularly if we've got a team of 20 or more. We know an extra $1 million or an extra 46%. We're going to actually work on projects to do both. We guarantee that if you can't see how you're going to make an extra $1 million or 46% this year with the work that we'll do with you, don't pay. I wouldn't want to risk my reputation. If we can't help you make an extra $1 million or help you grow by 46%, whichever one is more realistic. We talk about SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, relevant, with timeframes, SMART goals. It's either 46% is going to be a SMART goal or an extra $1 million is going to be a SMART goal. Either way, you're going to get a 5-to-1, 10-to-1, 20-to-1 return on the services that we deliver for you. Touch base with us for 15 minutes and let's have a chat and find out if we can work together, if it's going to work or not work, but certainly we'll be able to give you ideas on what you should be doing to actually grow your business using sales, influence, persuasion, and better negotiation. So in terms of skills, persuasion, system thinking, you've got to think in terms of systems. You've got to see it as a system. It's written down, it's documented, people are trained in it, and we use a systematic approach, including a continuous improvement, a Kaizen approach to the sales system, the persuasion system, the Rainmaker mindset system. It's a systematic approach. And one of the components of that, as I've said, is buyer facilitation, a system, a process to actually facilitate the buyer, to lead the buyer down a path to where they make a decision. Is this going to be good for me or not for me? But to structure it in such a way that if they have a need and you have a product or service that can solve that need, and they're the decision maker, then you should be converting that piece of business. If they're the decision maker and they have a need that you can solve, but the sale doesn't happen, you have not used the right process. Think about it. They've got a need. Could be financial planning, could be some mining product, it could be recruiting. They've got a need. If you've got the product or service that can solve that need and you know it can solve that need and it's a good solution for that client, and they're the decision maker and they don't buy from you, you have not used the right process. You've shot yourself in the foot. Now, have I ever done that? Absolutely, mate. That's why I teach this, because I don't like losing. I don't like losing at all. In fact, on my wall here, we've got two medals for swimming to Rottnest solo last year, and one world silver medal in the World Masters, 66 year over 65s water polo masters in Japan. We just came back. In fact, my nose was broken in the first training session. Fantastic. But we lost. Silver medal. I mean, we should be grateful for a silver medal, but something about silver. It's not quite the same as gold, but the same in sales. I almost got the sale. Oh, they liked it, but they didn't buy. Yeah, mate, that's not even a silver medal. That's nothing. You've come home with nothing. We actually haven't come home with nothing. If you're smart, you'll do a debrief on it to go, okay, let's evaluate the process. Did you follow the POMVIC process? In fact, we've got debriefing tools on how you do that. We call it the How Did You Go tool, where we debrief. So we use it as a learning experience. If you didn't get the sale, you better get the bloody lesson as to what went wrong so you don't repeat it next time. We want a pattern of high performance and success, not a pattern of regular excuses. Regular excuses means you're not learning and you're not using a Kaizen, continuous and never-ending approach, continuous and never-ending improvement approach to performance. So biofacilitation is a process you need to teach and learn. And then you need to understand some of the key principles in the science of persuasion. Now, I'm going to be doing this with a company that sells to the mining industry next Monday. The boss wants us to go back over. We did it last year with his team, and now there's some new members of the team. He wants a refresher, but he also wants to bring the new people up to date so that they're using the science of persuasion. How does the science of likability work? How does the science of what we call consistency and commitment work? How does the science of scarcity work? When should you use those tools? Did you even know they existed? How does the science of authority, positioning, and pre-positioning work? There's a whole lot of science there that you can use and apply, well-researched, but most people aren't even aware of it because high performers use it and aren't even conscious of it. Therefore, they can't teach anyone else because they don't even know what they're doing themselves, which is a problem. Often when you ask one of your top performing salespeople to actually teach others what they do, often they don't know because they're operating at an unconscious level. They're not conscious of it, which is what I've done over the years because I've stuffed up so many sales. And again, I've immersed and I've studied high performers. We've deconstructed it. We've deconstructed it and broke it down to make it bite-sized chunks to absorb it, but then be able to practice it. And that's exactly what one of the clients said overseas a couple of years ago. Lee, you've deconstructed the process so that we can actually teach others and then scale the business. And in fact, in their case, they scaled the business. They grew 30, 40%, but this is right across the country. And that led to literally millions and millions of dollars. It's just a beautiful story. The guy called Robert Cialdini is the person who's done a lot of this research out of the University of Arizona. And I've already talked to you about the power of strategic questioning, asking the right questions at the right time. When do you ask the money question? When do you ask the decision maker question? When do you ask the problem question versus the planning question? When do you ask the metrics question? When do you ask the motivation question? When do you ask the flush out the objection question? They're all key chunks of the process that sometimes you'll get the sale not doing some of them, but you better make sure on most occasions you do it all, because if you miss out any one chunk, you've just undermined your chances of getting the business. And of course, we call this POMVIC. This is a whole area that you need to learn about. POMVIC, it really is a powerful acronym and powerful set of steps. Pre-positioning, what you do before the sale is 10 times more important than what you do in the sale. Very important what you're doing in the pre-positioning phase. So in terms of your marketing, in terms of what you do before you go and meet with the client, there's a whole process that you need to understand about there. You need to understand about the law of value, that we get paid for bringing value to the marketplace, and that takes time, but we get paid for the value, not the time. You get paid for the value, the difference you make to a company, the difference you make to a person. Not, I work 10 hours on that. No one cares if you work 10 hours or 3 hours. You get paid for what difference did you actually make. And the more value you bring, the bigger the checks you're going to receive at the end of the week. So that's just an introduction here, because I can't, where are we? Slide 24. There's a whole lot of material. I'm not going to bore you with death by PowerPoint. But if you want to find out more, and again, I would never go through all these PowerPoint slides. I get so excited about the things I want to teach you. What's this say here? When sales training is complemented by in-the-field coaching, productivity quadrupled from 22 to 88%. In other words, a 400% increase. So what we do is use both sales training, but also in the field coaching. It's just incredible. What's this one here? Of proficiency. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things we can talk about. Sales fixes everything. Stop blaming your people. Start improving your systems, Deming. Let's be systems dependent, not personality dependent. Sales systems dependent. As we say, in the absence of systems, the place runs on personalities. Very dangerous, very dangerous. So we got a whole lot when we work with companies on this. I'll look at this statistic. Companies that follow a well-defined sales process are 33% more likely to be high performers. The win rate exceeds 50% for the 2/3 of companies that have a defined sales process in place. How about that? And as I say, you know, we're in the business of influence, persuasion, and sales, not old school, unethical, hard closing, pushy, unprofessional. You know, we're not in the business of Wolf of Wall Street. You know, that's not the way we do what we do, the Wolf of Wall Street. It's actually based on what we call the color zone system. There's a whole color zone system that will teach you the steps. It starts with what happens before you even meet the customer. What do you do in that first 5 minutes? How do you systematically swim in the blue zone and truly uncover their needs, but help them become conscious of their needs? Then how do you present the solution? How do you pitch the solution? And then you'll hear us talk about pitching a package of solutions and a choice of yeses. So you're co-creating the solution with the client. And then how do you actually summarize and close to get the business? And then there's the purple patch. What do you do after the sale to get repeat business and referral? How do you protect the account, retain the account, grow the account, and get referrals from that account? Each of these steps have a whole lot of components to them. Oh, there it is there. I've mapped that out in great detail. So it makes a massive difference. So come and find out about this. Have a chat with us, how this can apply to your business, because as we say here, every business needs just like a tailored suit, it needs a tailored system, Like McDonald's sales system is different than cash converters, and which is different than niche living. Now, these are all clients that I've worked with over the years, Host mining people, BSI, British Standards Institute, everyone has a different system, but the process is the same. The buyer facilitation process is still the same. And we made fantastic differences in each of those areas. So if you want to find out more, do touch base. There's a whole lot, as you can see here, of great tools and information that we have to help you in your career, help you in your business. We can really help you grow, learn, as I say, it's the one skill that you need to turbocharge your business, turbocharge your career. And of course, the more people in your business that have this skill, all ships rise on the rising tide. So I hope that helps, gives you some. You're saying, Lee, you've whet my appetite, but I want to find out more. Well, the way to find out more is click the link, touch base with me, go to leefarnell.com. I'll put the link in here to get the 15-minute booking. Let's have a chat. No obligation, no pressure, I can tell you. Fact is, I don't need the business, but I would love to help you. And certainly I can put you onto resources. I'll give you resources. There's a whole lot of things we can do, but you need to take action. Thanks for watching this. Happy Tuesday, or whatever day of the week it is once you watch this on YouTube. I'm Lee Farnell, and I'd love to help you sell more, 46% more, or an extra $1 million. It's up to you. Click the button below. Thanks for watching. I'm Lee Farnell.